So lastly, we're going to have a conversation with the president of the International Anti-Counterfeiting Coalition. Most of you in the room have met Bob Barchese before. Bob leads one of the world's oldest and largest trade associations representing the interests of over 250 companies concerned with trademark counterfeiting and related theft of intellectual property. Under Bob's leadership, the IACC has experienced a 40% increase in new members and a 180% increase in overall revenue. Mr. Barchese also spearheaded the development of the IACC Roadblock Initiative to combat rogue websites and online marketplaces. And he also led the launch of IACC Market Safe, which is an initiative that they led with Alibaba and IACC to address counterfeit products on their e-commerce platforms. Please join me in welcoming Bob Barchese. Who requires no introduction whatsoever.
Jeez, man. All right. So clearly, they saved the best for last, right, Bob? And we're on Facebook Live, and we are the only thing keeping the rest of these folks from cocktails. So no pressure at all.
No questions?
Yeah, no questions. That's it. So Dave gave an introduction, Bob, but you've been with ICC for 10 years. Is that correct? About 10 years?
I've been a president for 10 years.
10 years, okay.
Yeah.
So could you maybe just give some context about how you came to be a part of IACC 10 years ago? And I'd love to hear just what you've seen in the last 10 years. How has it changed? Has it changed? What's different? Is it better or worse? I don't know. I'd love to get your perspective on that.
Sure. So actually, I could tell you about 41 years of experience. And I think there's something analogous between what I did in my prior life and what I'm doing here. So I was with the New York City Police Department. I started in the 70s. And what we used to say is, if tomorrow's better than yesterday, then you're making some progress. I got into this business in 1999. So I worked for the RIAA. So just to date myself a little bit, we were chasing cassette duplicators at that time. Also, I was there for Napster. And later on, the cure-all of piracy, which was going to be CDs. Unfortunately, it was probably the worst investment that the music industry made. And motion picture came around, and they had this encryption that they were going to put on DVDs, and they spent millions of dollars of doing that. And some young kid got a magic marker, put it around it, and defeated the whole encryption system. So I think what we learned, that somebody mentioned about ICC, I was on the board in 2002, then I was on the executive board, and then in 2008 they asked me to take over the leadership. It's been a fantastic job, very interesting. I think when you get around my age, there's a good part of that, which is you get to see progress. You could come back, like I could come back to New York and I could tell you I was a police officer here. I was a detective sergeant, a major case narcotic unit. We used to go on one city block and arrest 100 people. We used to go on 500 police officers. If you go to those same streets now, Robert De Niro has a restaurant there. Clinton Street has all types of restaurants and million-dollar condos. And I think it's the same here. If you look at the one thing that stays consistent. So if you were to go onto the ICC's website, they would turn around and they would say, we're a Washington, D.C. based not-for-profit devoted solely to combating product counterfeiting and piracy. If you were to go back to 1979, when the ICC was formed, people would probably say we were putting together a community of like-minded professionals and businesses coming together for a common cause. And that's where we are today. That hasn't changed. So the ICC brought together various brands. They brought together professionals from product security firms, from law offices, investigative firms, other associations to combat piracy and counterfeiting, but they have a common mission, common cause. We do the same thing. So what's expanded, and I think the gentleman touched on this before, some of what we're doing, and I like to say it's three prongs. It's education, it's enforcement, and it's engagement. So let me talk about enforcement first, because most companies have their own internal enforcement mechanisms. They have a global security chief, but we expand upon that. And if there's folks here from, let's say, Alibaba or Amazon or eBay, maybe they'll get a little offended at this, but when I was with the police department, what we used to say is we'll work with everybody. We work with anybody, because you have to. If you don't work with a drug dealer, you don't work with somebody that does homicides, you're not going to solve the case. So in this business, we took the approach that we want to build a community. That's part of the enforcement aspect. And if you look at where we were in 2008 and where the ICC is positioned today, so let me give you just a snapshot of some of the partners that we have and some of the programs that we developed. So in 2010, we worked with the White House, the Intellectual Property Enforcement Coordinator, Victoria Espinel at that time, and we put together a program to follow the money. And we have that program today. And that program is a partnership that we have with MasterCard, Visa, American Express, PayPal, Discover, Pulse, Diners Club, Western Union, and MoneyGram. And what that did for our members, for our brand holders, was the ability to terminate merchant accounts any place around the world. And it doesn't matter where the bank is, it doesn't matter where the consumer is, it's based upon terms of service agreements. We have a tremendous partnership with them, it continues on. And one of the things I'd like to mention about that, the tools and technology change. So when we first started, very successful. I won't get into all the details. You have to make an electronic ping go back and forth in order to find, for Visa and MasterCard, to find the merchant account, to find the bank, and the bank ends up taking down the merchant account. The counterfeiters, they develop tools, sophistication, they put things to kind of thwart what you're looking to do, and they do a pretty good job. So you have to continue to evolve with that. That's why companies like Mark Monitor, they do a great job in staying up to date and staying ahead of the counterfeiters. That's not what the ICC's expertise is, but our expertise is developing those relationships. So that was the first relationships we built up. And I think it was around 2011 or 12. And a lot of people don't know this. Old guys like Brian Monks that were on the board with me 20 years ago. I sat down with the board many years ago and I said, why don't we bring Google in as a member? Why don't we have Google as a partner? And I had a lot of brands say, why Google? They're the enemy, they're the worst folks in the world. And I said, basically because you're not going to sue them out of business. It's better that they're sitting across from you and you find ways where you have commonality, where you can work together. They're not going to do everything you want them to do, but if you're with them and you're working with them, what I found is they'll try to work with you. I think one of the biggest things that we've done, Nancy, is we've kind of changed that narrative to let's identify who the real bad guys are. The real bad guys aren't Amazon, it's not eBay, it's not Google. These are businesses that have a business model. It may not, in fact, fit into being the most efficient model that'll find counterfeit goods. But they have a business model, they have a reputation they want to keep, and they're willing to work with you if you're willing to work with them. So what we used to like to say is we want to help you help us. And by doing that, again, we have a great relationship with the credit card companies. They came in, I can remember when I mentioned Visa, they were under all kinds of litigation. Now everybody embraces them. Oh, Visa's great, let's go work with Visa. We have conferences together. I speak and I train banks in China standing alongside of them. So then come 2012 actually, we started engagement with Alibaba. Alibaba was the worst villain in the world. They couldn't do anything but go up, basically. So it was, you know what, it's a win-win, right? Because their reputation is terrible, and all they could do is do better. It's not hard to go from where they were to where they are now. But I will tell you that, so we put together a program. It was a pilot program. But what comes out of that program is we helped change policies first. Then we put together an expanded program with Alibaba. So in 2014, we put together this pilot program. For folks that are familiar with Alibaba's Good Faith program, that Good Faith program comes from our pilot program. They didn't have a good faith program. They didn't have any criteria or measure on what they should do. We put that together, and then later on, when we found different policies, like if some of you were doing enforcement on Alibaba and they're obscuring a logo, well, we helped change that. We went in and said, this is a big problem. We gave them some suggestions. I got some great suggestions from some brands, and they came in and they actually changed that policy. So where did we go from there? We went from a pilot program with 20 brands. One of the knocks on the program was, hey, Bob, you have to be a member of the ICC, or you have to pay. We charged a fee. It was at the time, it was $9,900 for the year. And SMEs maybe couldn't afford that. Some people don't want to join the ICC. European Commission said, Bob, we like the program, but we need to open it up to more people. So with that, we came to an agreement with Alibaba. Today we have a program called the Market Safe Expansion. We have over 70 brands in that program. Not all of them are members of the ICC. I have a staff of four people that are analysts for the program. I have an attorney that oversees that program. Those analysts speak Mandarin. They read and write Chinese. They make it pretty seamless for folks that want to come into the program. You could come into the program for 1 year. And I'll say, maybe this is self-serving from me, but the beauty of the program is Alibaba pays for it. We don't pay for it. You don't pay for it. It's nothing new. When you arrest drug dealers and you seize their money, it goes back into law enforcement, and you use it to investigate them. So Alibaba stepped up to the plate, and they said, we think it's a great program, we're going to pay for it. So we have it, it's rolling engagement. If anybody's interested in it, please see me after, I'll give you my card. And I'd have to tell you, I was on the other side when I worked with the recording industry. And when I tell people about the program, they're like, well, what's the catch? What's the problem with it? And I say, why wouldn't you join? It's free. If it doesn't work for you, it doesn't work. What I found is a lot of brands need assistance. A lot of brands can't hire somebody that speaks Mandarin or reads and writes Chinese. We have those folks. What we found is, and what's in it for Alibaba is, they want to protect legitimate sellers. So what we found is brands, sometimes they're using Google Translate. They're putting in a claim that's not exactly correct. Now that we have folks that could read and write Chinese, they could go in and say, no, it's not exactly that. So that's that program. As far as enforcement, I could give you a little hint without getting out too much in front of my skis here. We'll be making a major announcement on Thursday. We're signing an agreement with another major marketplace. I'm going out to Seattle on Thursday.
I was going to say, if we promise to keep it a secret, does not leave this room.
I didn't say.
Would you okay, we get a peek behind the curtain. No,
Yeah.
I didn't hear anything. Did anybody hear anything?
I didn't say the name. But, so we have another agreement coming out on Thursday. It's a pilot program, so we'll test it. We'll see how it works. What I'm encouraged about is, look, I got broad shoulders. I've been around a long time. So when you start these programs, people are shooting missiles at you, that's fine. But what I'm very encouraged about is, any place I go now, I hear folks say, gee, we should work with these people. Gee, we should be a partner with them. Let's work with them. We shouldn't demonize them. Maybe we need to see how we could work with them. And whether you do it through the ICC, you do it on your own, I think you just have to go that way. And just to expand a little bit on our partnerships, We have partnerships with City of London Police. I was just out there. So City of London Police, on our credit card program, they take down the websites. If it's a .uk, we refer it to them, they'll take down a website. We have partnerships with the Guardia di Finanza in Italy. We have partnerships with the Carabinieri, with the FBI, HSI, Dubai Customs, Dubai Police, French Customs. So we continue to build those partnerships. We continue to put this puzzle together. Again, going back to what I said, Nancy, which is to build a community around this.
So, what are some of the big issues that you're seeing now with online fakes? Or are there particular trends that some of your members are reporting to you or that you've just seen in the work in the last few years?
Amazon.
Okay.
So, just to be quite honest, quite frank, Amazon seems to have a significant problem. It's a little bit troubling to me because, as I said, Alibaba has had a reputation that they can only make better. I'm a Prime member of Amazon. I would expect that Amazon, at least in my mind, has had a great reputation. So they have a reputation to protect, which says to me that really you should put a lot of resources behind this because, and I don't see, I'm hoping we see that commitment. So that's one of the biggest problems. Obviously, online is a tremendous challenge for every company. And I think what's changing a little bit, and a lot of folks here know better than I do because you do this every day, which is, I think the price points now. They make it much more difficult to just go in there and say, well, let me go by price points. It's a $20 Rolex. Obviously, it's fake. So I think more people get duped now than used to get duped. I think in the past, folks that are looking for counterfeits are going to find them. But now I think it's now bringing people in that aren't looking for counterfeits. They're just looking for a bargain.
So, understanding that you can't give us many details about the announcement later this week, are there other partnerships that you're looking at that are coming on the horizon for IACC?
Yeah, so a couple things. One I didn't touch upon is education. So we train law enforcement in the United States. We do, Angelo's here, 40 trainings probably a year, train thousands of police officers, federal, state, local, CBP. We also expanded that training. We did a training with the Guardia di Finanza. We trained 600 police officers. We did training in Dubai. And so part of that now is, I was just in London. I met with City of London Police. And for folks that participate in our training, we have a great app. So if you're a brand, the brands upload their product catalogs, how to identify real from fake. The only people that get access to that app is law enforcement. You have to have a law enforcement email address. I just spoke to City of London Police and another association. So we're gonna roll out training in London, working with another association, and also providing that app to the police in the UK. And we're probably gonna expand that out. So that's another partnership that we have. I could tell you that we're talking to other major platforms that want to work with us. Some of those folks will be at the conference. We're also, besides those folks, there's other Chinese platforms that continue to lobby us to work with them. Quite frankly, I don't have the bandwidth to work with everybody or the staff to work with everybody, so we kind of pick and choose. So I would tell you that if you think about the three biggest marketplaces, we're gonna have some type of program with all three.
That's great. Can we go back for a minute, because you touched on the law enforcement training, and we had the privilege to participate for the first time ever last year in LA. And I thought it was one of really the most fascinating experiences I've ever had, both in kind of watching the other presentations and being a part of it. How does a brand owner get involved in something like that? Just give them Angelo's email address and phone number?
So we have Angelo, we have Mike Walsh, who's a retired lieutenant from New York City Police Department. If you're a member of the IACC, then the training is free. If you're a member of the IACC, a brand, and you want to upload your catalog, that's free, there's no charge. I believe there's a cost if you're not a member, but you can still participate. If you want to upload your catalog, there's a fee. If you're not a member, if you want to participate in the training, there's also a fee.
And that really goes to the education piece that you were talking about, right? It's about brands having an opportunity to get out there and educate law enforcement about their particular products, the things that they should be looking for in terms of counterfeits, and kind of understanding their kind of individual product needs or concerns. Is that
Yeah,
accurate
I mean,
to say?
Nancy, that's one aspect of it. So another aspect is we have a conference. We usually have a training before the conference. We have a conference in Seattle, I think it's May 18th. But we also have a partnership with UL, Brian Monks, with Interpol, with Europol, and we have a Europol conference in Budapest. I think it's June 25th. We have an Interpol conference in Dubai. I think it's September 25th, if I'm correct. And we also have, which we were going to do every other year, but it was so well received, we're going to do this every year. So in October, we have what we call a Latin America Summit. And I was just recently, beside partnering up with UL, that was just something UL and us did. Interpol now wants to be part of that event and a partner, as well as the State Department HSI. So what that event's about is we bring people in from, the last one we had was 2016. So we bring people in from 15 different countries. The ICC pays for it, or we get the State Department, we get HSI, now Interpol, that'll help bring in government officials from, last time, 15 different countries, customs officials, attorney generals, chiefs of police. We also bring in U.S. officials. We had the Deputy Attorney General there. We had Kerlikowske there, who was the head of CBP. We had Ragsdale there, who was the acting head of ICE. But I think the beauty of it is, depending on the model, if you're a brand, you may not have the ability to go to Brazil, Guyana, Argentina, or you may not have the budget to do that. So, well, and you may not have people on the ground, and you may, in fact, outsource that to a law firm. Bigger companies may have actually people on the ground. So what we did is we bring them all to one place. So a company that outsources some of that work into different countries, they can now come to one place. They can meet all the different representatives from countries throughout Latin America. And it's been a fantastic conference or summit. We've got nothing but rave reviews on it. Like I said, we're going to do it every 2 years. But I got so many brands saying, Bob, can you do this every year? So we're going to have that we had it in Miami. We're going to have it in Orlando. It's in October. If you could make it, it's a great event. If you have problems in Latin America, again, the FaceTime, as you attend the trainings, getting to meet these folks, getting to give out information to them, being able to talk to them and show them real and fake and how they could go about that, some training on how to do investigations, I think is a fantastic benefit.
I'll pause for a second and see, does anybody in the audience have questions for Bob about IACC or any of the stuff that they're working on? Y'all are that thirsty?
Well, if you want to know if I'm from New York, I actually am.
That accent is for real. Still sounds like a New York cop. So kind of just, maybe one last thought, Bob, we can leave everyone with. From you, just given your history and your perspective, both as a law enforcement officer, working with IACC, all the stuff that you've done and built over the years, what is kind of, I don't know, what lasting piece of advice do you have for rights holders or brand owners? Is it about partnership education? Is it all of the above? Like, what do you think is there one thing that is really the best bullet, or no?
I think there's two.
Okay.
Right? Hire amazing people, which I have. And yeah, again, you have to build this community. You have to build relationships. It's all about relationships. I could tell you, and listen, maybe we don't do a great job communicating some of this. We need to do a better job. I was encouraged that I met with the Prime Minister. They're so engaged in this. The first time I went there was 2014. I went to the free trade zone and they said, Bob, we want to work with the ICC. We did training down there and they had a 100% occupancy rate. I went back there, I think 3 or 4 weeks ago. The Prime Minister, the Economic Minister, and Minister of Justice said, Bob, we need your help. The reason they need our help is because the free trade zone, 40% of the occupancy is out because they were counterfeiters. So they did their part. They did a great job. They took 40% of the free trade zone. They said, get out. We want legitimate businesses. So those relationships, and I'll leave with this, Nancy, which is, we're not great at everything. We're good at what we do, but what we are good at is building relationships and getting people to help our members and help the community as a whole. Because if it helps our members, even if you're not a member, if they change something or they do something good, it helps everybody. And you have to build up those personal relationships, and we have them. And we have them all over the world. And I think that's just so important that you could pick up the phone and say, this doesn't fall in exactly to what the Market Safe program is, but you could call up somebody from Alibaba and say, this is a different problem, can you help us? Or you could call up Amazon and say, this is a different problem. If we get through the 13 attorneys that you'll talk to, then maybe they'll help you out. But so I think that's what I would leave folks with.
Thank you so much, and thank you, since your travel schedule I know is so crazy busy, we so appreciate you taking the time to spend with us today, and we will look forward to the exciting news coming up later this week.
Thank you for inviting us.
Absolutely, thank you.
Thanks.